Hi, and welcome back to Football Made Simple. Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea faced off against a tricky side as they visited Marcelo Bielsa's Leeds. Tuchel's defense has been incredible, but Bielsa's free-flowing football was anticipated to test that. But in the end, the final score was 0-0, with both sides countering each other well. There were chances, however, with the XG finishing 0.38 to 0.97 in Chelsea's favour. The XG time app showed that Chelsea more consistently had shots on goal. But what tactics did both managers use? Let's take a look. A special shout out to everyone who's been able to support Football Made Simple on Patreon so far. If you want to help the channel, I'd love it if you considered supporting on patreon.com/footballmadesimple, and you'll get perks like early access to videos, exclusive content, and so much more. Here's how Tuchel and Bielsa lined up, courtesy of our video sponsor, the OneFootball app. OneFootball is the best football app around, giving you team and player stats, formations and match updates, as well as a customized news feed. The best part is it's absolutely free through the link in the description below. But let's start with how Chelsea looked to attack. Generally, Chelsea looked to build up short, with only 5 long balls from Edouard Mendy. And on paper, Chelsea lined up in a 4-2-3-1. But as the average positions show, it was most often a 3-2-5. But it was more fluid than Tuchel's usual back 3. When the ball was with the centre-backs, Chelsea always used a back 3 however, with Leeds generally looking to press high, ending with a passes per defensive action of just over 10. One of the reasons Tuchel may have used a back 3 in possession is that Leeds like to press man-to-man. So if they wanted to continue this, it would involve both wingers coming narrow to press, which would leave their fullbacks 2 versus 1 down. Or, if Leeds pushed their central midfielders higher instead, Chelsea's men in the half spaces would then be free. But Leeds did neither. Chelsea tended to drop Mount deeper into midfield on the left, whilst Havertz as the false 9 could also join the midfield, so Leeds didn't have a spare midfielder to push higher into the press. So instead, they maintained their solidity. And by staying compact through the centre, it did limit Chelsea's central progression. With Chilwell high, Rafinha tended to stay deeper, but Harrison would be drawn much narrower on the press. Pulisic tended to drop deeper to receive, which he could do, to then look to play higher up the field. However, if Alioski pushed up to close him down, Havertz would then move into the wide space created, which was a pattern that occurred on both sides. And Chelsea generally looked to take advantage of Harrison being consistently drawn out of position when pressing, which did lead to a decent chance for Havertz. Harrison is caught pressing narrow, and Leeds' midfield was man-to-man on Chelsea's, so Azpilicueta has space to attack. Pulisic stays wide, so Alioski cannot come narrow to stop Azpilicueta. He drives up the pitch unchallenged before playing in Havertz, who has a good shot on his weaker foot. And higher up on the right in possession is when the shape shifted to something more like a back 4, as Azpilicueta would push higher. But rather than overlap like a traditional midfielder, he remained narrower so that Pulisic could have a 1 versus 1 against his man. As if Azpilicueta had overlapped, it would mean Pulisic would be more likely to be forced to come in onto his weaker foot. But Chelsea mostly attacked down the left. This was facilitated by Chilwell, who'd move high and wide early to take up a wide position, which would drag Rafinha deep. In fact, Rafinha so often had to track his man deep in the first half. However, Rafinha's strength is as an offensive threat, so he was eventually shifted over onto the left to reduce his defensive workload. On the left, Mount tended to come deeper to receive the ball, and Leeds were aggressive, as usual, in their man-to-man press, meaning that Ayling would follow deep. And crucially, Havertz as a false 9 would often get on the ball and look to play in Ziyech or Pulisic as they made runs into the box if he had space. But when he did drop, a Leeds centre-back tended to follow, and this would leave potential space to play the pass in behind to then look for a good cross. However, Chelsea often couldn't find this solution. But we would often see Phillips fill in at centre-back when one of Leeds' men was dragged deeper. However, this left space in front of the back four, which Ziyech or Kante would look to take advantage of throughout the 90. Leeds didn't have much of the ball, but let's touch on what they looked to do. They did struggle to come out, as due to their positional play, in open play Chelsea could counter-press well. In fact, they ended with a passes per defensive action of just under 8. But in open play, Chelsea operated in a 4-4-2, with Ziyech pushing alongside Havertz. This is because keeping the back five would put too much defensive burden on Pulisic, who could potentially be 2 versus 1 down. And with Chelsea pressing with a higher line, we did see Leeds attempt more long balls in behind than usual, being caught marginally offside a couple of times. But on the build-up, Leeds kept their centre-backs extremely wide, with their full-backs pushing higher. This would make it harder for Chelsea's front two in the press to be effective, as there would be a large gap between them. With the extra midfielder pushing high to press, this would potentially leave space for Phillips to receive and look to progress the ball. But it is well known that Phillips is the hub of the team, so often teams look to sit a man on him, which Chelsea did do. But in this match, when that happened, Phillips moved up well to take a man away and create space for Dallas to drop into instead. And if Leeds instead looked to play wide, interestingly, it would be Jorginho who moved out to press, with Mount instead dropping slightly deeper to cover the central option instead. However, in this match, generally, Leeds struggled to create clear-cut chances from open play. Overall, Bielsa will be happy to get a draw against Tuchel, whose Chelsea have generally been impressive since he came in. However, the match lacked Bielsa's usual chance after chance style of play. And a point away to Leeds is not the worst result for Tuchel. However, with the 3 sides below them now having 2 games in hand, he will be sweating above the top 4 slot. But what did you make of this match? Why did Tuchel's men lack the attacking edge? Drop it down in the comments below. And a big thanks to my Patreons for the continued support, including Olaivi Partanen, who recently joined the Ultra team. But that's all for today, and remember, keep it simple.